The United States is at war. We now return you to CBS Radio. This is News Director Sam McKibben with reporting from WPAY Radio in Portsmouth, Ohio. Even though America is now suddenly at war, our lives must go on. Here in the Portsmouth area, our citizens are still going to work, going to school, and even getting married this week. With our minds now on winning the war, some local citizens are still thinking of taking their wedding vows. Let's join the festivities at the chapel today. 3 local couples, young men and women, prepare to get married today before their new husbands leave for the military service in World War II.
My family has grown accustomed to my travel schedule, although often it's last minute. I've missed my share of evenings around the family dinner table. I'm lucky they share my vision. Funny choice of words, vision. After all, that's what it's all about. Helping people see clearly. The United States was growing, and so too was the need for proper eye care. I was reading the newspaper. Help wanted. Optometrist, it said. Portsmouth, Ohio, here I come. That's right. I actually answered a help wanted ad for James Bennett. We formed a partnership and opened a storefront in downtown here. And I realized I had to get my degree. I had to travel all the way to Illinois just to get my optometry degree. That was too far, I thought. We needed to have a program here in Ohio. It took a lot of help and a lot of energy, but we got it done. A program was approved to have a building of optometry at Ohio State. There was a need for optometry in the service as well. Eventually we did it. But what about our veterans? They needed proper eye care too. Eventually, optometry services were provided in the VA hospitals and for the Social Security Administration. I always believed that optometry services were important for the military and that we needed to get them more integrated. And it was worth it for those servicemen. They needed proper eye care.
Look at me. It seems like only yesterday I was at the chapel getting married to my dear husband. And now here I am at the very same workstation he used to work at. I sometimes have to look at my wedding ring just to remind myself it all really happened. Before the war, I was a sales clerk at Bragdon's, but when Ohio Stove mentioned that they needed someone to take the jobs of the men, I applied. And I think my husband would be very proud of me. We work together to collect scrap and make ammunition, and we can all the foods we grow in our backyards. The posters say we're all in this together, and I believe we truly are.
The president wants women to join the workforce. All jobs, even jobs only done by men. One of our supervisors read a letter to us from a crew worker on a B-24 plane. It said that he was a little homesick, but while he was on the ground loading his plane with the 500-pound bombs, he read the markings on the casings. And it said Portsmouth Division, New Boston, Ohio, and it made him realize how much we're really all in this together.
Before the war, I thought I would be like most women, get married and have a family. But everything changed. Seth, the man I thought I would marry, was soon drafted into the army. Soon killed in Normandy. I have his picture here on my work table. The girls told me not to come back to work so soon after his death, but I needed to. Here we are, working 3 shifts, 7 days a week, and I'm okay with that. Keeps me busy. You know, girls, I can really do this job. I didn't think I'd be strong enough or tough enough, but that's definitely not the case.
It's a lot of pressure when they're inspecting my work. And they call us Rosies, like we're a club or something. I feel like we're just like everybody else. Girls, what'll happen when the war's over? Will I get to marry my Jimmy? Will I go back to work? Will I stay here? Everything's just so uncertain right now.
I know what you mean. I don't know what we are. Am I a Rosie? Am I a widow, even though I didn't get to marry? Will I meet someone else? I can't think about that right now.
Sometimes feel guilty that I am good at this job.
I, Sam Jackson, Company L, 134th Infantry Regiment, 35th Infantry Division, was born and raised right here in Scioto County, Ohio. I was 21 years old when they bombed Pearl Harbor, so in 1943, I climbed aboard the George Washington at the South Portsmouth Depot and made my way to the Military Induction Center in Fort Thomas, Kentucky. From there, I went to Southampton, England, where I served in General George Patton's 3rd Army as a forward observer for the 35th Infantry Division. We arrived on Omaha Beach just a few days after D-Day. We were just beyond the top of the hill as the 35th was pounding its way towards St. Lo when we met our first stiff resistance. The Germans were moving around their big guns with horse-drawn vehicles, causing immeasurable damage to the Allied forces. Pounding, oppressive shots rained down and left men wounded and dying. Finally, we decided to lure out the German forces. On Thanksgiving Day, 1944, the war ended for Edmund and me. Snow covered the ground on the French-German border town of Patang, Germany. We were dug in among a stand of pines, trying not to be seen by the German patrols, when we heard motorcycles start up in a nearby barn and called an artillery fire on it. But we must have been spotted, because I heard the whining of an artillery shell coming towards where Edmund and I were holed up. I dove under a log, and 3 days later woke up in a French hospital. I was then transferred back across the channel to Southampton, England, where the 15-year-old future Queen Elizabeth pinned a Purple Heart medal onto my chest. What an honor for a young man from the river town of Portsmouth, Ohio to have received. But I'm always aware and humbled by the thought of the many, many soldiers who never returned from the bloody and torn French soil. There's about 3,500 Americans that rest on top of that hill at Omaha Beach, Normandy. They rest under row after row of white crosses. But now I've heard that France wants them out of there. How soon they forget.
Are you from Portsmouth? I've lived here my entire life, except the time I was in the war. Honestly, I just love this river town. I was just looking through some of my photographs. They remind me just how lucky I really am. Excuse me, let me introduce myself. My name is Carl Ackerman, and I'm the man with the camera you've probably seen all over town. My time in the war was humbling. It made me realize just how small I was in the world. During the war, my battalion was forced to give up somewhere in Normandy. The Germans, they took our boots, our helmets, our cigarettes, our money. I honestly thought I'd never make it out of there alive. And many of our men were killed. When the planes returned, there was no fire, but so many men had already died. We managed to escape during a battle when the Germans were fighting and didn't realize we had gone. You see, I started taking these photographs in 1945 when I first stepped off the train. I wanted to create a better history for myself, one that would stand for years to come, one that showed promise and happiness. Through the lens, I see nothing but the good, and I'm lucky to capture these moments for everyone else to enjoy. Look, there's that word again, lucky.
My personality actually arose from my keen desire to help others. In 1942, I was a young woman of 33, and I was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Army Nurses Corps. I went through training where I had to march before being sent to England. Early on, I saw too many of the horrors of war. However, the long hours, terrible conditions, and supply shortages were not the most difficult part of my job. Psychological damage that was brought on by those brutal combat experiences was often more debilitating than any of the physical injuries that I'd been prepared to handle. My strongest memory is how a young man, often in obvious pain, would say, "Get to me when you can. He needs you more than I do." It was humbling to see the regard that one human being can manage to have for another, even in the worst sort of hell imaginable. Day after day of grueling work, dealing with supply shortages and miserable conditions, led me to be more and more assertive in my own command. I eventually attained full commission status and became Captain Ruth Wellman of the United States Army Nurses Corps.
I am proud of you and understand that you don't have a lot of time to ride home. But if you could, please send us a note to tell us that you're doing fine.
We had a good tin collection today. The kids at Holy Redeemer School are on track to make the biggest collection of any in the state. Tomorrow we have plans to...
Take it easy. Rose, you have to slow down.
Our boys are doing everything they can over there. It's only right that I do everything I can here to help them. And besides, if I'm busy, it helps take my mind off it.
Let's take out their old letters. Let's read them again.
From Chuck. Dear Mom and Dad, I received your letter and I intended to answer sooner, but there just doesn't seem to be time.
Mom, Dad, I'm doing fine. However, I've contracted malaria.
No.
I can assure you, though, I'm fine. They're taking great care of us here. Please tell the boys that I'm thinking about them and that I love them, and especially to be safe. Love, Chuck.
Here's one from Dick. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm in the best of health, don't worry. I've met a lot of boys.
From Ohio, and even some from Kentucky. It's kind of nice to talk about home. I tell them Ohio's better than Kentucky, and we had fun with that one. We're on the move now, so I'm not sure when you'll get this letter, but Mom, I sure do miss your cooking. Love, Dick.
Here's one from Paul. Dear Mom and Dad, we're really getting our share of the battle right now, but we keep each other's back. Sometimes it makes me a little homesick, but I remember what we're doing is important.
Oh, don't worry. We've been trained for this and we know what to do. Tell everyone I'm thinking of them. Love, Paul.
Here's one from Raj. Dear Mom and Dad, Merry Christmas. They try to make it as nice as they can with a traditional Christmas meal, but it's just not the same.
There are hundreds of guys in my training company, but I still find myself somewhat alone and thinking about the family and friends at home a lot. I'm a little homesick since this is my first Christmas away. We hear the war will be over soon. I pray that is correct. Love, Raj.
St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. Amen.
When they came to tell me your father had died a hero, I already knew. My heart skipped a beat on that terrible day, September 4th, 1944. I can close my eyes and see him fighting till his last breath to save the crew on that plane. That is the kind of man he was. The officers explained that he was killed during the attack by the Germans. I truly understand this is the war, but it doesn't make it any easier. I am sad that he will not be here to see this precious little boy who looks just like him. But I will be strong. My little boy, you will always know your father was a hero. We will go to Holy Redeemer every week and sit in the same pew as your father and I did. Oh, Forrest, I miss you so much, but I am so grateful that you were part of my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the sweetest voice this side of Oz, Miss Judy Garland.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, when happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow. Why, oh, why can't I?
You packed your bags and shut the door. You crossed the sea to fight a war. You didn't know just what would happen to you. The days are washed in a haze of red. The blood, the mud, too many dead. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. Your brother falls down to the ground. The enemy